Hello, it's the Curious Love back with another review. And today I have
Rasco.
Rasco with me today, and we are going to be talking about 10 Cloverfield Lane. So this is our third time trying this live stream, so we're really good at talking about the beginning of this review, so it might sound a tad rehearsed, but we've learned a lot from the previous live streams, and now we're really good at it. It's going to be great. Okay, so Rasco, how did you feel about 10 Cloverfield Lane? And make me believe that you've never said this before.
So, when I came out of this film, I was feeling a couple different ways. I was being torn in different directions. But the main direction I was being torn in was that, to me, like I've said multiple times, this movie felt very much like an episode of The Twilight Zone stretched out to feature length, but stretched out in a good way, not like stretched out and there wasn't enough there to necessitate a full-length movie, but like they fleshed out an episode of The Twilight Zone and made it a feature-length film, and I really liked it. I love this movie.
Yeah, I thought it was really good too, and like I said before, I agree with you on the whole Twilight Zone thing. I thought it definitely had that vibe to it, and like I mentioned before, also the ending was a little jarring to me. I'm sure you'll see a lot of different reviewers talking about that, just because I feel like I watched two very different movies smushed into one, which is kind of like Twilight Zone, so that sort of makes sense in that, where you have that sort of, all of a sudden you're watching something that you didn't realize was happening. But they were both really great. I just feel like some people might be going in expecting just a thriller, and that's not what this is. It has a lot of really great thriller elements, and it definitely is a thriller, but it's also a little bit sci-fi, and near the end there, you're going to start to get some of those sci-fi elements in, and that's important just to know going in that there's a little bit more to this movie than meets the eye when you just watch the trailer. But overall, I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of Cloverfield, the first movie. I'm not even really sure if we want to call this a sequel or not, but I really like Cloverfield, and this had a lot of the same like tone, kind of like near the end, but all through the beginning it was well produced, kind of like Cloverfield was. But I mean, you've got almost nothing in common with it until you get near to the end of the movie. Do you have any other just kind of overall thoughts before we move on to the cast?
Just one thing. For me, this movie is very similar to Cloverfield in that, and I'm not going to say, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but by the end of the film, it's similar to the first Cloverfield in that it feels like you just watched a story that was taking place during like a giant blockbuster action movie, but you're not watching that movie. You're watching a small story that's taking place during that event. That to the grand scheme of things won't really matter to that. That won't affect that event really either way. This is kind of a story that's just happening simultaneously to something like that. And I thought that was kind of a way that both films were very similar to each other. But it's kind of hard to understand what I'm saying unless you've seen either one or both of them.
Yeah. And there's definitely ways that I do think that it could very easily relate to it. But again, a lot of it has to do with that third act, which is very spoilery, and I don't want to go into it. But moving on from that, we have John Goodman. What did you think of John Goodman?
I really liked Howard in this movie. I guess his character's name is Howard. I really liked Howard because Howard is like one of those, he's an unsettling, creepy guy characters. And what can be very annoying about characters like that is sometimes they're introduced in a way where they seem completely normal. And then like throughout the story, they slowly get more weird and creepy. And you're like, you were very normal earlier on. I liked you back then. What happened? And like, Howard is creepy from moment one. He's never normal. He has moments where you're kind of like, I could see, kind of liking Howard. He seems like a nice guy here, but then he's weird. And it's never consistent, which is good. He is never consistently one way in this movie ever.
Oh, he keeps you on your toes for sure. Oh yeah, he was great. I definitely think he was my favorite part of the movie, even without, like, he wasn't the main character. Obviously, there's 3 characters in this movie, so it's not hard to kind of stake your claim with it within the story. Yeah. But he like stole every scene, was awesome, terrifying. I was watching through my hands. It was scary. I really liked him too. Yeah, it's super creepy and a great, I don't know if villain is the right word, but kind of antagonist
Yeah.
for a lot of what was happening. And he kept fooling me like multiple times during the movie. I was like, cool, I know exactly what's happening now. Okay, never mind. Now I don't. Okay, but now I know what's happening. And it was very much like fool me once, shame on
Yeah.
you, fool me twice, shame on me. And I kept just trusting that everything was face value. All right, so then we also had Mary Elizabeth, is it Winstead? I'm assuming is how you pronounce it, who played Michelle, our kind of main protagonist. I thought she was great. I thought she really held her own, like even in a movie with John Goodman, who was, as we said, just like a presence within the
Yeah.
movie. She did a great job as well. I mean, you were with her every step of the way, especially in that third act where you're a little bit more focused on her. It was like I was on the edge of my seat, like what is happening right now. Is really interesting to watch her character arc, I guess, throughout the movie and see how she kind of came into her own.
Yeah, I really like her as an actress because she kind of seems like she has like a thing for sci-fi roles, I guess, because I think she was also in The Thing, remake prequel. It was technically a prequel, but it was kind of marketed like a remake, but she was in that, and Scott Pilgrim also, I believe, but that's
Was
not
she
really like
Ramona Flowers?
yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. Um
Whoa. I didn't know that.
so
That's crazy. I
I've
see it
thought
now.
I've either liked her or, found her not to be bad in every movie that I've ever seen her in. And the reason I say that is because like The Thing is not a great prequel, but she's not the problem with that movie. But I really like her in this movie just because I don't know, she just reminds me of Sigourney Weaver and I love Ripley. So that's why I like her. That's my reason. It can just be that. I don't need
That's
a
a
better
good
reason.
reason. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
All right, and then last but not least, our third character, and basically that's all the characters in this whole movie, is John Gallagher. Gallagher? How you pronounce it?
Gallagher?
Gallagher. Gallagher Jr., who played Emmett, who I like. I really like him as much as I loved Howard and Michelle. Like Emmett was kind of, I don't know. I felt like he was a little bit more the heart of the movie.
Yeah.
Like you've got kind of creepy antagonist, and then you have Michelle trying to like stay alive and have
Yeah.
her, escape and stuff. But Emmett was like cracking jokes and like making
Yeah.
things seem a little bit more human.
Yeah, Emmett is like the guy you would want to be down there with if you also had to be down there with Howard. You'd also want to be
Yeah.
with Emmett because Emmett is super funny and like he's lighthearted and he's just kind of like chill. And Howard is the exact opposite. Howard's like always like calculating or like watching over everyone and he's just there. It's like the balance. If
Yeah.
you're with Howard, you got to have a good person down there to be with you and chill out and just hang with. And that's Emmett.
And I didn't really think about this until just now as you were kind of comparing him to Howard, but like there's a moment in this movie where you are actually without Emmett and you really feel it. Like that just
Yeah.
goes to show you how well those characters were balanced. Like once Emmett is not there, like you're like, oh man, like Howard is so much scarier because Emmett isn't around to like diffuse the tension and kind of like be the voice of reason. Um, so yeah, he was great as well. So yeah, the overall movie was great. Acting was awesome. Did you have any like specific other things that you wanted to touch on real quick?
Are you just in like pros or are we doing cons also at this
Oh,
point?
cons, yeah, bring them on.
I don't have a lot to complain about with this movie because overall, I think this is maybe the best movie or second best movie that I've seen so far this year. I think for me, it's kind of a competition between The Witch and this movie. So I don't really know how those two would actually stack up against each other. But the only thing that I can really say I didn't necessarily love about the movie was I felt like in towards the beginning of the movie and not so much the second half, but there's kind of a lot of shots where it's kind of claustrophobic feeling, and I think that was kind of intentional because it seems like towards the beginning of the movie when you first are in the Fallout bunker, it's kind of shot more like up close and shaky and like not shaky. This isn't like shaky cam, but
This isn't Cloverfield.
yeah, no, it's not what it is, okay? It's
Yeah.
not that. But it felt sometimes like maybe it was just kind of awkwardly shot. Maybe it was the editing, but it kind of goes away, and I think it was kind of an intentional thing. Like, you're first in this bunker, and it's ominous. You don't know if this is a good place or a bad place. So, like, up close and like, oh no, like, is this good? Is this bad? And then once you kind of adjust to the bunker, the shot, the way that it's filmed, the cinematography completely changes, and it's a lot more like just back full shots. You can see everything that's going on in the room. It's not shaky. It's not close up at all. And it just, I don't know. And it's not necessarily a flaw, but I really liked the way that this movie was filmed for the most part. There were a couple scenes where I'm like, I really wish that they just would have shot that shot just a little bit different.
Yeah, my biggest con for the movie is definitely just the fact that it felt very disjointed. I wish that they had spent just a little bit more time kind of setting up what was happening, that was going to be happening in the third act. I'm really trying to choose my words carefully because I want to spoil it for anybody, because you want to go into this movie not knowing.
Yeah.
But I wish there was a little bit more sort of setting up the third act than we saw. Maybe there was, especially in that intro before she's in the bunker. There could have been something else that I just didn't realize, because silly me, I wasn't expecting the third act, and I should have been because it's a Cloverfield movie. But that's my main con, and it honestly isn't really that much of a con for me, but I can see how it wouldn't be something that people like. In fact, I heard people as I was coming out of the theater being like, that was awesome until like the last 15 minutes, and then it was just weird. So I can I heard those exact words walking out of the theater, inflection and everything. So yeah, overall, same. It's definitely one of the top movies of the year. I think for me, what's over it is Zootopia and Deadpool, but those are definitely like my type of movies, and this is definitely more your type of movie. Like, you're a big horror guy, so I can totally see how this would be more up your alley. Still really liked it. I think if you like thriller movies, you're really gonna like this. If you're a fan of sci-fi, but not of thriller, you might not love it as much, but in general, it's, it was a good movie. I can definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like if you like the first Cloverfield, it's kind of the same thing. It's a thing you probably know nothing about going into. You can't really predict what's going to happen necessarily based off what you've seen. You have no idea about its relation to any sort of other film franchise or continuity. So it's very similar. If you just kind of went into the first Cloverfield and you were like, I have no idea what this is, no preconceived notions, but I'm just going to go in and like it, this is the same kind of movie.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for watching our review. Let us know what you thought of 10 Cloverfield Lane in the comments below. And hopefully we will see you again for another movie review very soon. I'm the Curious Lo.
And I'm Rasco.
All right. Bye, guys.